All right, you guys, so this is lesson 5.6. Basically, it's 5.5, but we're going to do some more work with imaginary numbers, okay? So basically, like inside this box, what it's saying is if you have a solution of I, then you're also going to have a solution of negative I. So the I is like 0 plus I, and then the conjugate would be the same thing but change the sign. So that'd be 0 minus I. So that's why minus I is a solution. There's another example. Look at this. If you have 3 plus I, then you're also going to have 3 minus I. So if you have any imaginaries, you're going to have the imaginary plus the conjugate. Always they come in pairs. Okay, example 1, I have seen this on a midterm, and it would be so wonderful if it was. So you guys can tell me the answer. If x minus 6 is a factor, then blank is a 0 or a solution. What would it be, guys? Yeah. Now, I do want to, I'm going to be talking about the midterm like constantly. Some of you are just putting 6, okay? I've been through hours and hours and hours of picking these tests apart and the way that you write your answer. And I don't know if they'll give you credit for 6. It's debatable. I feel like it could go either way. So what's missing from that makes it perfect? X equals, yes. So just please be super careful with that, okay? Okay, the following is a subset of possible rational zeros. Which one actually is a 0? Now this was on your quiz, and I still think that it's fair because we've already talked about this, okay? So basically, these are not all the possibles. They're just some of the possibles. So they want to know which one of these work, okay? So everybody grab your calculator. Hit the white negative button, 1, divide 2, store, enter. Then you're going to put it into this equation right there and see if you get a 0. So go 2, membar, enter, raise it to the 5th, plus 7, membar, enter, raise it to the 3rd, minus 2, membar, enter, x squared, plus 7, membar, enter, minus 4, enter, and I did not get a 0. Okay, now let me say something right here too. So one of the tests, it was just one of them, one of the quizzes I was grading, they wrote their possibles, you know, they had this big list, and then as they checked them, they started like crossing them out. Don't do that. They're still possibles, even though it didn't work, okay? Okay, let's do the next one. So -2, store, enter, up, enter, did not work. 1, store, enter, up, enter, did not work. 1 divided by 2, store, enter, up, enter, and it didn't work. Did any of them work for you? Wonder if it's a typo. Let me check it really fast. Well, that's not good. Didn't work. None of them work. Let me grab a graphing calculator. Yeah. Did you figure out what I did?
Well, I did this one at home. I don't know if I'm right or not, but
yeah.
I changed the 2x to the 5th to a 4. Actually, I don't know if that matters, but
yeah, no, it would matter.
A 4 also goes into it.
So if I listed 4, then the 4 would work.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
I made the minus 4 and then switched all that.
Okay, so if I made this a 4,
Yeah.
and if I added a 4, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Then the 4 works.
Or a
Negative 4?
Yeah.
Okay, he's just helping me figure out one that works, okay? So let's check that. Everybody, let's just check it together. It's just a typo on the problem. I'm sorry. It's not right. So go. Those of you who watched the video, what did I do in the video? Oh, this one wasn't there. It's new, and when I did it, I messed up. Okay, everybody go -4, store, enter. Then go 2, membar, enter, raise it to the 4. Plus 7, membar, enter, raise it to the 3rd. Minus 2, membar, enter, x squared. plus 7, member, enter, minus 4, enter, and it works. Good. So you just fixed my problem for me, bud. Thank you. So the answer would be x equals negative 4. Okay. Okay. Tell me what page we're on so I can fix it. 60? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, find a polynomial with the given zeros and do not simplify, okay? Okay, so it has to be a polynomial equation. So everybody go y equals. So you have a 0 of 3 and its multiplicity 2. So if you have a solution of 3, you have a factor of x minus 3. And if it's multiplicity 2, it just means squared. Everybody write down x equals negative I. So if you have x equals negative I and you pull your I over to the other side, then you get x plus I as a factor. Set that equal to 0, you get your negative I. Well, guys, if I have a negative I, then I'm also going to have, tell me, positive I. Remember, those come in pairs. So this would be x equals positive I. When I pull that positive I over, it becomes a negative. So it looks like that. Now, if I check my degree, I've got 2, 3, 4. So I'm totally good, and that's my answer. Do not simplify means don't multiply it out. Some of you are not reading the directions. There was a difference quotient problem with the squared, and it said right on there, do not simplify. And some of you just kept going all the way to the end. Do not simplify means put it in and leave it be, okay? Is there anybody in here who has not taken the quiz? Okay. Okay, this one right here. Everybody write x equals. So, and then I don't want to write x equals. Sorry, I want you to put y equals. Up above, put x equals 2 plus I. Now, this is super awkward. So just don't worry about this a ton. See this 2 plus I? You've got to pull it over to that side to get the factor, right? So that's going to give you x minus 2 minus I. If you have a solution of x plus 2I, you're also going to have a solution of x minus, 2 plus I, you'll have 2 minus I. So these come over to that side, and that gives me x minus 2 plus I. And the other solution you have is a negative 3. Well, that's going to give you a factor of x plus 3. That's third power, and we're done. Okay? Don't worry about that a ton. Just set it equal to, move them over. There's about a 0% chance you'll see that. Okay? Who says, so far so good, I'm fine? Okay, great. Example 4a. If it has a solution of 4 minus I, then it's going to have another solution of, everybody tell me what that is. 4 plus I. Okay. Now, this happened before this 4b. This happened, I don't know, maybe 2 semesters ago. And most of my students missed this. So look right here. What my students did is they said 2i plus 1 as the other solution. And it's wrong. Because when you change that sign, it has to be in the form of a plus bi, which means the I has to come second. So everybody write down negative 1 plus 2I, which is exactly the same thing as that yellow. I just switched the order, and now you change the middle sign. So basically, it's the I that sign that changes. So that'd be negative 1 minus 2I, and that's it. So you have to put it in the right order and then change the middle sign, okay? Who says I understand that? Raise your hand, let me see. Okay, great. Okay. Here's a 0. Find the solutions. Okay, now I'm going to be honest. See that solution they've given you? I don't even use it. I just use it at the end to make sure that that's what I got. Okay, so everybody look at this trick. Remember, I showed you this last time. Okay, look up and watch this. So this coefficient is a 1. That's a negative 3. That's a 4. That's a negative 12. So the small ones are here. Leave those alone. Could I turn a 4 into a 1 and a negative 12 into a negative 3? by pulling the same thing out of both of those? Tell me that, yes or no. Yes or no, guys?
Yeah.
I could. If I pull out a 4, 4 divided by 4 is 1, negative 12 divided by 4 is a negative 3. So I can turn a 4 and a negative 12 into a 1 and a negative 3. That's a little trick I use to see if it factors. This factors. So all I'm going to do is just take that right-hand side of my equation, and I'm going to set it equal to 0, and then I'm going to factor. So the x to the third is going to go to an x and an x to the second. The x to the second, you guys, is supposed to be a negative 3x to the second. So I'm going to put a negative 3 right there. The x is supposed to be a plus 4x. So I'm going to put a plus 4 right there. And then, like I told you when we did this before, I make sure that a negative 3 times a positive 4 gives me a negative 12, which it does, okay? This line that I just wrote, that bottom line, is not correct. And I actually started taking points off on your quiz if you're not writing a complete sentence in your work. So I started dinging you, and I just filled it in. And so just know that that's going to start lowering your scores. What's wrong with my line? Equals 0. Good. Okay. Set that equal to 0. I get x equals 3, and that's rational. X squared plus 4 does not factor. You guys, if it does not factor, then that's going to be down in part B. Okay. Now, I have some people on the quiz that I just graded that use the quadratic formula on that problem. You can totally use the quadratic formula. I think it's like 4 times tougher than to do it another method. All you have to do, guys, is pull your 4 over, and it becomes a negative, and then square root, and then you get x equals. Guys, what comes right after the equals? Plus or minus. Thank you. What is the square root of a negative 4? 2i. That's it. So I've got 2 answers there and 1 answer there for a total of 3, and I have an x to the third, and I'm good. The other thing I could do with this problem, did I get 2i as an answer? Yeah. So I'm feeling really good about this. On the quiz, some of you did this. You did, like up here, rationals. You said x equals 3 and x equals plus or minus 2i, and then down here you said none. Okay, so you have to understand what's rational and what's not. Anything that has an I in it or a square root in it in the final answer, that is other. Okay, so that's the correct answer. Okay, hand up. Go ahead, honey.
I was just going to ask if Weaver State will accept the plus or minus, or do we have to write it?
Yes, it will. They will. I'll always write it how they'll accept it, just so you know. Okay, you can always ask me, but I always model what they expect of you. Okay, here we go with example 5. Example 6, find the zeros by factoring. Don't expect them to say by factoring. They're just going to say find the zeros. Okay, so everybody write down x to the fourth minus 3x to the second minus 28 equals 0. Okay, now I think you see that x to the fourth and it freaks you out, but it shouldn't. Because look what's in the middle, it's an x squared. So that tells you to just split that x to the fourth to an x to the second and an x to the second. Please make sure you put an equals 0 at the end. 2 numbers that multiply to give me 28 and subtract to give me 3 are 7 and 4, right? And the biggest is the negative, that would be the 7, so it looks like that. Do you see how they're not asking me on this question, like which ones are rationals and which ones are others? This is how I think it's going to look on your midterm, okay? So if I set this guy equal to 0, you guys, I get x squared plus 4 equals 0. That's x squared equals negative 4. Square root it. That's x equals plus or minus 2i. Now do this guy, x squared minus 7 equals 0. Pull my 7 over, square root, and then I'm going to go x equals plus or minus the square root of 7, like that. Hey guys, I want to talk to you about checking really fast. Unfortunately, on these little calculators that you guys use, there's no imaginary button. So we can't check an imaginary, but I can check those 7s. So you just hit, You just store it in and then plug it back into that equation. And what should you get, everybody? A 0. Yeah. So if 2 of them work out, do you think the other one's going to work out? I would feel pretty confident. Not 100% sure, but pretty confident. Okay. Okay, here we go with example 7. So example 7 looks just like the last lesson. Okay. So possibles. What goes into 26? Just go in order, guys. So it's always going to be 1, right? And a 2. Does 3 go into 21? No. 4, no. 5, no. I think it's going to be all no's until we get halfway there, which is 13, and then 26. If anybody notices anything else, let me know. And then the leading coefficient is right there. It's a 1. Putting a 1 on the bottom is not going to change those. So I'm going to put parentheses around it, and I'm going to put plus or minus. You guys are going to be frustrated with me. And I'm just going to tell you right now. And you just have to know that I'm like so well trained. I go to so many different things. So some people did this kind of stuff. And I'm going to make up different numbers. You know, whatever. And then they did it correctly over here, but they didn't box their answer. I don't know which one you're telling me is the answer. I can't assume that it's the correct one. Maybe it's the weird one. You know what I mean? So if you didn't highlight or box your answer, I started taking off points. So you lost a point right there. Out of 3, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And considering there were 177 points on the test, -1 is like, you know, super small, but I just want you to feel those little pains of what you're doing wrong. Okay, find the rational. So grab your calculator. Everybody go 1 store, enter. Membar, enter, raise it to the 3rd. -8, membar, enter, x squared. Plus 25, membar, enter. -26, enter, and 1 does not work. -1, store, enter. Up, enter, does not work. 2, store, enter, up, enter, and it works. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write x equals 2, and I'm going to highlight it. Because if I don't have a ta-da on that problem, on that part, I'm going to lose points. So I want to make sure I have it, okay? Then I'm going to do the 2. I'm going to set up myself for synthetic division. I'm not missing anything, so I don't fill in any zeros. And right now I say to myself as I do it, I better not get a remainder. If I get a remainder, I did something wrong. So the 1 comes down. 1 times 2 is 2. A -8 and a +2 is a -6. Times 2 is a -12. 25 minus 12 is 13. 13 times 2 is 26. And those are gone. Freeze for just a second. Now that you're better at this, because last time I was just introducing, last time I had you in class, now you're like really good at this. I love that you're not supposed to have a remainder. Because if you end up with no remainder, you're doing it right. So it's a sweet little check right in the middle that was like, yeah, keep going, you're doing this right. So it's nice, as long as you remember, okay? Okay, so this is a 3rd, so this guy's a 2nd. So it's going to be 1x to the 2nd minus 6x plus 13. You must set that equal to 0. I look at that, and I know it doesn't factor. Because 13 is prime, 1 and 13 don't add to give me 6. So I know it's not going to work. So this work goes down in the other 0. The second I realize it's not going to factor, I move down. I'm going to use quadratic. So everybody go x equals 6 plus or minus the square root of 36. I had someone write -6 squared, and it messed them up. Remember, I told you I never want you to write it as squared. I want you to square it in your head, so you don't do that. -4 times 1 times 13 all over 2 times 1, which is a 2. Do I have permission to write this as a decimal, everybody? No. I do not. So I want you to grab your calculator and put that in there just how you see it. And you guys know you don't have to put that 1 in there if you don't want to. And you get x equals 6 plus or minus the square root of -16 all over 2. Okay, I want you to listen carefully. I definitely think there are people like maybe 20% of my students that don't know how to deal with this correctly. Because I have people getting to that point and then it falls apart. So can I reduce this, you guys, and get this? 3 plus or minus the square root of a negative 8 all over 1. Is that okay?
No.
It is not. Why not? Which guy is messing that up? That square root of 16. You can't do that because the 16 is in and everything else is out. So that is not an option. So now you focus on that square root. I could pull out pairs, but I can do that in my head. So I'm not going to pull out pairs. So it's going to be 6 plus or minus. What's the square root of a negative 16, everybody? 4i, and it's all over 2. Okay? Okay, everybody just look and listen. If this 4 was a 5, which it's not, but if it was, could I reduce that problem? Tell me. No. There's so many of you that know. It makes me feel so happy. It would be no because 2 doesn't go into 5. Can I reduce that? Yes, I can. There are 3 people, 6, 4i, and 2 goes into everything. So it would be 3 plus or minus 2i all over 1, and I'm done. I don't have to write the all over 1. So there are 2 solutions there. There's 1 solution there for a total of 3, and I'm good. Okay? Okay, example 8. Example 8, and then we're done. And this is it to the midterm. So that should feel a little bit of weight off your shoulders, hopefully, okay? Given that x equals 1 is a 0, find the remaining zeros, okay? So now they're not even asking me for possibles. I do not think that it'll be presented like this, just so you know. I think they're going to make you come up with the possibles and then start finding them. But they've just done a little work for me, okay? So everybody put that 1 right there. 4, 3, 2, 1, constant. I'm not missing anything. And as soon as I write this down, I say to myself, I should not get a remainder, okay? 2 comes right down. 1 times 2 is 2. A negative 1 and a positive 2 is a 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 and a negative 4 is a 4. 4 times 1 is 4, and I have no remainder. Okay, everybody look right here. I got a couple of funny faces when I was showing you the little trick to see if it factors. So let's make sure everybody's clear on this. Okay, look. These get grouped together. These get grouped together. Take the big guys and see if you could factor the same thing out of both of them to turn the 8 into a 2 and the 4 into a 1. Is there something I could take out, everybody? Yes, if I took out a 4, 8 divided by 4 is 2, 4 divided by 4 is 1. You're not going to do anything with that. You're not going to use it in the next step. But the fact that it works tells me I can factor. So I know I can factor this. Okay? 4 goes down to a 3. So this is a 2x to the third, a plus x to the second, a plus 8x, a plus 4 equals 0. Now this one's just a little more tricky with the factoring. So watch this closely, guys. See the x to the third? It's going to go to an x and an x to the second. One of those numbers has to have a 2 in front of it. But I don't know which one, and it matters. So I'm going to wait for a second to figure it out. Okay? So the x squared is supposed to be a 1x squared. So whatever goes there multiplies by x squared to give me a 1x squared. Well, that's going to have to be a plus 1. Well, now I know, guys, I can't put my 2 there with the x squared because then it would give me a 2x squared, and I don't want that. So the 2 doesn't go there. Now I know the 2 is going to go with the first guy, like that. Okay? Who says I understand that? Let me see. Okay, great. So now to get this x, 8x, you have 2x multiplied by what? That would be 4. That gives you an 8x. And like I told you, every time I did this, I don't just assume that I'm good. I always double check very quickly and make sure that a positive 1 times a positive 4 is a positive 4. And it is. Okay? So now, set 2x plus 1 equal to 0, I get x equals negative 1/2. Set x squared plus 4 equal to 0, I get x squared equals negative 4. Then I square root, and I get x equals plus or minus 2i. I'm going to put it over in the same place as the other one, And there we go. That's it. Yes, honey. Okay, I'm so glad you said that. Find the remaining roots. Now, I did not take points off, and I don't think Weaver would take points off either. But x equals 1 is not a remaining. It's what's left after that. A lot of people on the quiz did put that one, the 1 on there. I just crossed it out and circled remaining, but I didn't take points off. Okay? Anybody else? Okay, that is it. Get in your groups and let's go. You guys still have 40 minutes, so that is good for you.